Hello, hello. Just kind of finishing up, getting everything set here. Posting a couple things. Okay. We're going to be continuing our work on finatr. We have been working on this concept of composable budgets, as you can see by our Git branch name. Let's open up that. Oh, it's open already. Okay. So where we had left off last time was we were going through the state for our new transaction group. So we've got the group name, description, budgets, and we had just set up this relationship and got logging to work. So I think let's go ahead and log that out. It's fine. And we're working on this budget page. So we're specifically looking at 107. So we've got our microstate that has the group name, description, budgets, and then the transactions. And we were trying to figure out how we had to do this array type. The transactions is an array. And we want to set up a relationship that targets those transactions. So transactions. Stay. So we had added in this group. So we're setting this transaction group off of the net. And right now we are manually setting the group name as paycheck. And our transactions is that. So we should be able to then, if we do well, our group right now is mapping over and running this organize method. And the organize is what is doing the logging. So when it gets to this group and runs that, it's actually logging out those pieces of information. So if we do a value of what are we working with here? So part of the reason that we are seeing an empty array might be because this example that we have right now is category is just a full transaction. So we don't have to reset things every time it refreshes. Let's just go in and change this to default transaction. So when that refreshes, it should give us our transaction. And so we're logging out this transactions. If we did the same, so everything in Microstates is lazy. So it won't actually, you can basically have it recalculate everything or reset the state for everything, but it's only going to actually do the work necessary to re-render whatever is visible. Okay. So we're getting the transactions in there. That's good. Now let's deal with that hard-coded value, I guess. So in our group, we want to set a group name. So we almost want a group for each unique category. I think so. And we can create a data set that is grouped that way. We do have an interest in letting transactions be in multiple groups. So how do we want to deal with that? We actually probably want to do a new group. So category is, it's only going to fit into a single category, but we almost want a group that a transaction can essentially subscribe to that. So array type of string types. Oop. It's kind of interesting that that's blue and all the others are green. So I guess it does it for this one too. It must be something with this the function nature of this. So we have a group, so a transaction will subscribe to a group. When we create our store, we are Where is that now? I think we are setting the, yeah, so we're setting a default transaction. I don't really want to change that right now. It might be nice to switch this over to an example that has more things in it. And we do already have transactions or examples set up, so we could. Alright, so transactions have a group. So with this default one, if we give it a group, and it's going to need to be an array, and we've got a cat. There she goes. Okay. So if we have with these groups, we want to accomplish the ability to combine a bunch of different transactions that occur at different time periods into one single entity. Boil it down to something like a daily rate that you pay for it. So if you have insurance that only goes once a year, we can boil that down into how much you pay for that daily. But also we want to let someone create multiple budgets or multiple scenarios to consider, and that group can also fall into any of those budgets. So we almost want to have the ability to group the groups. So if somebody puts a group on the transaction, that's going to say that that is subscribing to a specific group. But then in here we also want a group to have the ability to be grouped. So do we have a list of groups that transaction group is pulling in? So it's either going to pull in transactions or it's going to pull in groups. So let's set up a group here first. This is going to be part of our, we'll just say it's just a typical daily expense. And that'll be kind of the first main group. So when it shows up, it will go into that field and then in turn be pushed into here. And we're filtering based off of the category right now. So we actually want to switch that to group. So if the transaction group matches the group name here. So in our group, we want to be able to find the unique groups. So we need to, do we do anything like that yet? I can't remember if we've got something that can determine uniqueness. I feel like we have. let's look through our components. It's been a while since I dove deep in some of these functions. Resolve. This is all the date related stuff. And these are all higher level things. C data is for our tests. So we've got a little function that makes a UUID. I think if we have any sort of uniqueness elements, they will show up here. Doesn't look like we do. Resolve, build, transaction splitter. Okay, so I think we're gonna have to do a quick function to determine unique things out of a group. So let's make a little utils. We've got our state components, probably going to be specifically related to state. So let's just make a utils.js. We are going to have a function that determine unique. Sure. Did I spell determine wrong? I did. Determine. There we go. So we are going to give it a you're going to give it transactions, and within each of those transactions there will be an array of groups. So we're going to, it's called groups, right? Group. Oh, maybe we should call it groups. I think we call it groups because it's an array. So no, we're going to have an array of transactions. So we can do transactions.reduce. We are going to have an array of let's call it unique groups and current groups. So we need to return the unique groups with the we need to determine if we need to add this in there, and if it is, then so we'll say let next unique groups So we're going to in our current groups, we're going to loop through each one of those. And if unique groups dot includes the group, so if that's true, then we don't want to add it. And if it isn't true, then we do add it. The blue pyramid in the background. I don't know if you can see it now. Kiddo got a tent, of which she, upon setting it up, immediately put all of her prized possessions inside. So there's basically nowhere to sit in it right now. But, you know, if it makes her happy, I guess. The pyramid. That cracks me up. So, if a unique group includes the group that we're looking at, then we don't need to include it, so we just skip. So I suppose we can do, let's not do a ternary, we're going to do that as an if statement. So if unique groups, I've been doing too many different languages. I think this is the if statement. If it includes it, then we don't. So if it doesn't include it, then we want to include it. So next unique groups dot, does push return an array? I don't remember now. Appends new element to an array and returns the new length. Okay, so we don't need that. We're basically mutating. Yeah, thanks. And then group. For each. Yeah, so we're basically, the reduce is pure, but we're mutating within. Yeah. Then we have to reassign it every time. I mean, I feel like it's probably not an issue if we're just mutating within a reduce. Yeah. I always feel bad mutating things, but maybe that's just, you know, an unneeded quest in the quest to be completely pure functional. Okay, let's say export determine unique. Yeah, definitely. Most of this is pretty much functional, but I do some mutations within pure functions. Is what it is, I guess. A map. I mean, a map will just return the array every time. So we're like conditionally updating an array. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Hardly worth it. We'll run with this. Undo. Okay, so now we can use this function to can we import it somewhere that makes sense? We're going to import it on the bottom. Hello, kitty. We are in the top state, so it's just going to be adjacent. And utils. Utils.js. Yes, cat. I know you want attention. Okay, maybe later. Yeah, she's been liking the working from home a little bit too much. Case in point. I feel like she's becoming more of a baby than she was before. Can she? I can still see her in the camera. I definitely have to close my door occasionally because she just gets too ridiculous. Okay. So we want the unique groups. So constant unique groups. Determine the unique groups from the transactions. So then in here we can do a map. Let's close this. Okay, cat. And we're done. So unique groups.map. So we're going to map over all of our groups. We're going to return for each one of those a group name of group, and we're going to It feels weird that we're giving it the full array of transactions, but I think we're going to end up having to redo how we're dealing with those transactions. All right. Oh my. Okay. Sit right there. So at least you're not in my face. Okay. So now we have groups, and we automatically create a group for each one of our groups that we specify in the transactions. So somebody isn't going to be filling out a form and creating transaction groups. They will be filling in transactions and we'll be grouping them for them. Which I feel like probably makes sense because they can show up in multiple places. Can you see your head right now? I feel like Dr. Evil. Okay. So right now, oh my goodness. Oh yes, I know you love me. I know you love me, but you need to go down. So we're setting our groups, and then we map through, and this organize, all it's literally doing is logging out for us. So we can take this piece out, and within our okay. We can add a log method here, and we'll switch this to log, and we can actually within here go this dot no, that's not going to work because at this point transaction group is just a single group, so we need to, on a level above, do the looping. But if it has subgroups, so what we were talking before, we have a subgroup. So I think what we do is we actually have a root group that everything is a part of. I think that's what I was getting at with this budgets actually. So we're going to switch that to groups. And that can be recursive. Groups will be an array of transaction groups. So here what we're doing is we're making a group for each unique group. So we kind of want to be able to actually do the nesting part here. We will. So if I give it the transaction group, what I can do is then create a relationship here and do all the nesting within that. That might work. So here we could say if group name equals root, then we want to loop through. Well, we really just want to log the group. That'll be fine for now. We can do more logging in a minute. Oh my goodness. So we're going to log this dot groups if it's the root group. So here we're setting the group name, we're setting the transactions, and then we also want to be setting the groups. But similarly, so we're just going to call this the, no. Okay, cat, you are getting too lovey-dovey. So I think this unique groups, we actually will be moving this out. And this is going to be moved into this piece. So here what we're going to do is all we're going to set is the top level group, essentially. And that is not going to be an array. Transaction group. So we're going to say group name is going to be the root. Our groups will be I don't think we actually do anything with the groups. Transactions will be transactions. And that's all we really need to do, because then we can take everything over here. So our transactions are going to loop through, and if the group matches, it will be part of the transactions in this group. And then here we're going to also switch this to a relationship. We will be using value and parent value again, I'm assuming. So the groups will be another transaction group. So our return type is going to be that's going to be comprised of groups. So it'll be an array type dot of transaction groups, and our value is going to make use of this and that. Yep. Okay. Why is that red? Oh, because the value is not filled in. So our value is going to be another transaction group. Our value is going to be an array of transaction groups. So I think we can actually go from here. So we can use this unique groups function. So we're going to give this transaction group an array of groups. The value is going to come out to be, for each group, we are going to return the group name. We're going to return all the groups again, because it'll just keep on. So I think this will be value, because value will match groups. And then transactions are going to be parent value dot transactions. So value is this groups. Parent value would be this whole class. So from there we can then get to the transactions. So we're going to basically be this won't give us any deep levels of nesting. I think this is just going to give us like a top level. So we're only going to have 2 levels deep with this, which is probably fine for right now. Okay. It should be defined now. Let's try refreshing. No. Unique groups is not defined. Didn't we drop it in here? Determine unique. Oh. The array that we're mapping over should be the... Did we delete it already? Where were we working? Here. Yeah. So that's going to return, and we need to do parent value dot transactions, and that's going to return all the unique groups. So this log will then run this method, and it's going to log out all of our groups if we're looking at the root group, because otherwise this I mean, I suppose technically we wouldn't need this because we're only calling log on this top level. But let's take a look. So let's say transaction group. Excuse me. Yeah, cat hair. Funny enough, I'm allergic to cats. which it's not the best. Okay, so transaction group, we should be running this log method. We gotta remember to fill in that key. I always forget about that key, but so we got some app model stuff, recalc, and these all use methods similar to what we're doing in this other place. So group is assigned value but never used, state index.js. Okay, that's that. So for some reason our log isn't actually running. So transaction group log. Let's just make sure our log function is running. Take out the if. It is not. So how do we do the logs on the other ones? I bet you it's a get method, get compute. Oh, app model should be in this file. Log. So I don't. We're not doing anything special. It is a method. So I think we're not actually doing anything with this group, which is why it's not actually, that function's not actually running. So if we now say, we run this init, we then run another transition on it to do the group. So if we then say from the group we want to do some other calculation stuff. So we're going to switch all those inits to the group, and that I think will get it to run. Nothing. Okay. So why isn't that log method running? So if we just log out the group there, okay, so we got something, and we have a transaction group, of which it has, interest, type error, groups for each is not a function, current groups. So this is actually a microstate. So I think what we do is actually update this to expect a microstate. So transactions.reduce I think has a microstate function. So within the unique groups, we're going to then current groups does not have a for each. I think there is a map. Save micro. Nope. Microstates. So it's not the actual like primitive pieces. Everything is a microstate. So as you break down into the more primitive pieces, a string type is still a microstate. So to get the actual value, you need to use that value of function. That might be the easiest way to deal with this, but it's going to unwrap our store map. So map will map over something, but it's not going to actually return a microstate. So we still want to be using the map. So we might need to undo that undo. Because we want to keep all the microstate stuff, I think. It makes sense to, at least. So we've got a unique groups, which is just an array in this case. Do we want to actually map from conversion of any can we convert? It does. Okay, so it does convert. So we might want to use this microstates from. But I wonder if we can say import array type from microstates. So we want to begin with an array type, which should give us an array microstate. So what we're going to then do is, as we're running a reduce, we will have a unique groups, and then within, so this is actually an array as well. We want to, I think we actually want to reduce that to what methods do we have for an array type? So we have a map, we do have a push. So I think that probably, they don't have reduce listed in here, but I'm pretty sure they have added it and it just didn't update the docs. Types, array, pop, push, unshift, slice, sort, filter, map, clear. Maybe they don't have a reduce. Does primitive, so the primitive actually gives us the state, which is why we always extend from primitive at least. That would save us from having to do this value of. But that only works on primitive value get state. So it is a, okay. So it would work on this full piece. So we could potentially then switch that log to just a dot state, but return this dot state would give us the whole thing. So there isn't a reduce. So what we kind of have to work with the state to that point then. So I think we can say this. So this is then, now we're not working with any, we're not working with a microstate at this point. So we probably are going to have to say from this, create a microstate. And we will have to look at getting a reduce added into the microstates for arrays. So from this, so this is all going to be plain JavaScript. We are not using the array type anymore. So transactions.state should give us all of the expected stuff. And it looks like we're not getting any errors, so that's good. Microstate 165. I believe that is 165. So it's logging out this. So we're still not getting the actual transaction group, microstate. So we've got the root. If we do group.state, it should give us, assuming we have switched everything to being the primitive. That's interesting, that's a function. Okay, so transaction group, got our transactions, but we don't have the groups, so there's still something, there's still an issue with the groups. So where to go? Transaction group, groups. So we're gonna type error, cannot read property reduce. Of undefined. So transactions is actually so we are extending from primitive. That would work on the full thing, but the problem is it's so if we do this, that would give us just the transactions. I think that'll work. So basically we are saying run this function with state, which is then all just plain JavaScript. Give us all the unique values, then create a microstate back in, or convert that back into a microstate, and then map over it. In which case, these transactions will be microstates. Value is coming from above. Group name will have to be .state. So we've got transaction groups, still getting that. Cannot read property reduce of undefined at determine unique. We did refresh, right? So here we've got transactions. If we switch this return, if we log out our transactions, what are we working with here? Transactions, because that should be, I feel like it would be nice to throw an error if we try to call .state undefined. So 165. So it's still not running that. That's interesting. Cannot read property reduce of undefined. We don't use a reduce here at all. It is in the actual determine unique. So we're still getting an error there, even though our transactions should be the state. Oh, dot state dot transactions. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna switch it to this and this, because I think that'll throw a little bit more obvious error if we're doing something wrong there. Okay, cannot destructure property transactions of undefined. Yep. So parent value is not giving us what we expect. Console.log parent value. That's so weird that it's not. So it's still that 165. It's like it's completely ignoring our. Yeah, it's interesting. So if let's go as simple as we can go. Say value equals value. That'll be fine for now. I just want to get that thing to log out. And it's still not logging out. That's interesting. I'm surprised that that's not logging out. We might end up having to write a test for this to make. Oh, yeah, it is. So maybe the parent value is actually a non-microstate at this point. So we might be able to do this. Transaction group groups. Okay. Current group stuff for each is not a function. Progress. Is it actually logging out? It is. Here we go. So transactions that reduce current groups. Oh, current group. I guess this is more current transaction, and then here it should be current transaction dot group. Dot groups, because there's always, it's an array. Still have logs in there, right? Yep. Okay. Where'd all our logs go? Transaction group. I bet you it only runs it when I actually like click into it. Yep, that's why I wasn't noticing it before. That lazy stuff tends to get me. Okay. So we should have, our transaction group should have a groups of which we've got transactions and groups. So I think we can get rid of this, get rid of this. I think we are working correctly here. So from that, we're going to map over and we're going to create a whole bunch of groups. And it's going to be comprised of, we might not need to do this. I think it's actually wrapping and creating a microstate for us. So if we go to this and that and that, so this is all just plain JavaScript in here, I think. So plain JavaScript, we're going to map over group value transactions. Value should be no. So this will be the groups. There's not going to actually be any groups nested below this right now. So we'll just take that out. We're going to have to work on that nesting, I think. But that is definitely going to be a next time thing. So if we just take a peek, let's see where it's at. Groups should give us a bunch of transactions. I expect this to be an array. So if we say this log method is not working, which I'm still not sure why. It's also something. Let's put a note for next time. Not certain why this is not working. Nothing logs out from this. So I think what's happening is we've got an array type. It should be right. Because map will give us an array. So the value and the type is that. And it'll be an array of groups, group and transaction. So if we say group dot transaction group dot state, that should give us a nested thing. And it's not. It's just doing the transactions right now. So something's still a little bit haywire there. So it's determining from the parent value, we're pulling in the transactions, and that's how it's determining these two things. But I don't know why the group is just not. Not working with us. So we're not getting that error anymore. So I mean that's something. We've got a length of 1. So that should be our root level. So the nesting part of it is not seeming to work correctly. So when we create a root group, we then want to nest all the other groups beneath it. That is determined from the transactions. So for each unique value in there, we're creating another group, which is the transaction group. So it should be recursive when we the idea is that this will give us an array of all the groups that are within the root based on the transactions that we're giving it. So this is only filtering to So parent value is pulling from transactions. Transactions is filtering just to the groups. So that will have nothing when it's the root group. So if we if the parent value dot group is root, then we just want to return all of them. Oop. Otherwise, we only want to return a filtered amount. So the group name is root. It's got, let's try the examples real quick. I think we might end up being stuck on this though, which is fine. There's always next time. Okay, yeah, so it's just cannot read for each of undefined at array.reduce. Yeah, so we're still running into something here, which is, I assume something was going on there. So basically what we're saying that we want to push all the transactions down. So this group will have all the transactions if it's the root group. Otherwise it's going to filter down to just ones that are within that group. But here group is an array. So this should actually be if transaction.group value.filter. So if transaction.group dot includes then we want to do it. Cross our fingers that was the issue, and if not, we will pick this up next time. Budget. Groups, yep, cannot read property of for each of undefined. Alright, well, I think we're going to have to pick this up next time. The only place we're using this for each is here. So we're still getting some error somewhere in here that we need to suss out. So I think so we remember what we were working on last time. We will also put a log here, console.log transactions, and we will pick it up here next time. budget. Yep. I mean, he's getting all the transactions. So it's interesting that so a transaction has, yeah, they don't have groups. So group isn't defined. That's where our error is. So the default one is potentially working, but doesn't match this root or what we're expecting. And the examples that we have are not set up to work with this groups yet. So we'll have to tackle that next time though. Thanks for stopping by. Let's see if we've got looks like we got a couple people we can potentially raid. We were just by Fabio's stream. I was at least. A little bit ago. We can. Looks like he's potentially still going. So let's go ahead and give him a raid. I don't know if we have anybody that we'll go over, but thanks for stopping by, everybody.